You have lived through so many days of your life, yet still feel like you have not truly lived. Have you ever wondered why, even after trying so hard, your heart still feels tired, your mind still feels tangled, and happiness always seems like something ahead of you, not far yet, never within reach? What most people never tell you is that happiness does not arrive when life changes. It arrives when you change the way you stand in that life. And right in this moment, as you sit here listening, you are about to step into a journey that will help you see clearly what you have missed throughout your entire life before now. Not temporary motivation, not empty words. This is the journey that brings you back to yourself, where you learn to create happiness from within, build unshakable inner peace, and live a meaningful life in the exact way you deserve. If you have ever felt stuck, confused, or wondered whether you could live a lighter, calmer life, then you are in the right place. Stay. Just a few minutes from now, you will see life from a perspective you have never seen before, and nothing will ever be the same again. True happiness is not a sudden light that falls into your life. It does not come from perfect moments or the victories you believe you must achieve in order to feel complete. Happiness is not waiting for you at the top of a mountain or in some glittering future where everything finally becomes what you want it to be. Right now, as you hear these words, you are standing before a truth that very few people dare to face, that happiness begins exactly where you are. Not when you become richer, more successful, or more loved, but the moment you look into yourself and realize that the peace you have always searched for has never been out of reach. People often believe that life must be easy for them to have the right to be happy, but life was never designed to be easy. It is a series of constant movements, a mixture of disruptions and warm moments, challenges that require you to grow beyond who you once were, and it is within this very journey that happiness is born. There are no shortcuts, and no form of perfection can give you the feeling that only a matured inner world can create. When you sit still and look back, you will realize that the moments that made you stronger were exactly the moments you once wanted to run away from. The times you failed, the times you were rejected, the mornings when you did not want to get out of bed, the days when you felt lost, those very moments built the foundation of your inner strength. Happiness does not come from avoiding difficulties, but from understanding that you have the ability to stand firm in the middle of them. You do not need to become a perfect version of yourself to deserve happiness. You only need to become someone who dares to face the truth that you have the right to be at peace, even when life is not yet stable. When you start looking at life through the eyes of someone who knows that the inner world is the foundation of every emotion, you will see that nothing outside can steal the peace you have built within. This is the starting point of the journey that leads you from confusion to clarity, from reacting to choosing, from instability to balance. Not by changing your entire life, but by changing the way you stand within it. And when you understand the true nature of happiness, you will realize that everything you are searching for begins within you. Happiness does not appear on its own, but is formed from the structure of perception within you. And when you understand how the brain operates, you will realize that emotions are not random. They are created by what you choose to focus on each day. When you open your eyes and step into the morning, you are not just entering a new day, you are stepping into a collection of countless small choices that will determine the quality of your experience. Perception is a lens, and people do not see the world as it is. They see the world as their inner state allows them to. When you believe that life is always against you, you will interpret every experience negatively, even when life is not intentionally trying to hurt you. On the other hand, when you understand that emotions are the product of thoughts, you will know that happiness can be created even in the most difficult circumstances by changing the way you interpret what happens. I want you to imagine one thing: that two people can stand in the same storm, but one is fearful, panicking, feeling like the world is collapsing, while the other sees opportunity, recognizes inner ability, and moves forward with incredible calm. The difference does not lie in the storm, but in the lens they carry, and this very lens is the starting point of the strength you are about to build. When you understand that perception can be trained, you will look back at the years that have passed and realize that much of the suffering you experienced did not come from circumstances being too terrible, but from your mind constantly magnifying worries and shrinking the good things. Humans are naturally sensitive to negativity. This is a survival instinct, but in modern society this instinct becomes a barrier that keeps you fearful, defensive, and always feeling inadequate. When you begin to observe your mind, you will see that it often runs toward the worst predictions. It amplifies your mistakes. It pulls you into comparison. It convinces you that you are not good enough. But perception is the moment you pause and look directly at that, understand it, and choose not to let it control you anymore. When you change the structure of your perception, you change your emotions, you change your reactions, and you change your future. People often believe they are reacting to events, but in reality, they are reacting to the meaning they attach to those events. If someone does not reply to your message, you can choose to believe they do not care, or choose to believe they are busy and have no intention of hurting you. One thought leads to the feeling of being abandoned, while the other leads to calm, and you are the one who decides which one governs your mind. When you understand that meaning can be chosen, you will realize that the power to change your emotions is a power you have always possessed. You just did not know how to use it. Many people lose their happiness not because they lack good things, but because their mind can no longer recognize them. A quiet morning, a warm cup of coffee, a friend who listens, a peaceful moment on the way home, these can all bring comfort. But when the mind only focuses on the negative, it overlooks all the small seeds of happiness happening right in front of it. Perception helps you bring your mind back to the present, helps you open your eyes to the things you once considered ordinary and turn them into emotional anchors. When you change your perception habits, you change your emotional foundation, and when the foundation changes, everything else changes with it. Perception is not magic. It is the ability to observe without being swallowed by inner chaos. When you notice that you are sad, that you are worried, that you are self-critical, it does not make the emotion disappear, but it gives you space to choose your response. You are no longer swept away by your emotions. You step back and witness them, and from that position you can choose calm, choose understanding, choose transformation. Your strongest emotion is not pain or fear, but clarity, and clarity only appears when you observe yourself with honesty. When you understand how perception operates, you can create space in your mind to shift your thoughts before they shift your emotions. Each time you choose to see a situation differently, you are rewriting the emotional wiring in your brain. You are restructuring your nervous system. You are teaching your mind how to stand stronger in the face of challenges. This is where happiness begins to form, not from circumstances, but from your ability to see life through a stronger, clearer, and more compassionate lens toward yourself. When you understand the power of perception, you will know that happiness is not luck, but a skill anyone can train. And when you train it, you no longer wait for happiness to arrive, you create it in every moment you live. Gratitude is not a social ritual or a fleeting thank you spoken out of politeness. Gratitude is a state of awareness where you look at life and clearly see the good that still exists even when difficulties surround you. When you understand the power of gratitude, you will realize that happiness does not come from having more, but from the ability to recognize what you already have. People often chase what is missing, and because of that, they overlook everything that is nourishing them each day. When the mind is caught in the desire to gain more, it becomes blind to simple values such as a healthy breath, a safe home, a sincere friend, a calm morning, or a complete meal. These things may seem small, but when you look at them with the heart of gratitude, they become anchors that keep your soul from being swept away by the storms. Gratitude is not just an emotion, it is a mechanism that reshapes the structure of the brain. When you focus on the positive, the brain releases chemicals that make you feel comfortable, relaxed, and peaceful. These reactions are not abstract. They are the biology of happiness. When you maintain gratitude daily, you are retraining your mind to recognize the good instead of magnifying worry. And what is incredible is that just a single moment of gratitude is enough to change the way you see an entire day. A person may wake up with the same pressures, but when they take a few seconds to feel thankful that they still have the chance to live, to love, to try again, to move forward, their mind becomes lighter, and their body becomes more prepared to face difficulties with a completely different spirit. People do not suffer because they lack happiness, but because they forget that there are still many things to be grateful for. When you look at life through the lens of lack, you see yourself as always behind, always losing, and you believe that happiness only comes when you have more. But when you shift to the lens of gratitude, the things that once felt ordinary become precious, and the things you once overlooked reveal their own quiet beauty. A hot cup of coffee in the morning becomes a small gift from life. A smile from someone becomes a bright spot in your day. And sometimes just the moment you realize you are breathing is enough to remind you that life is still moving and you still have the chance to begin again. Gratitude helps you see the small pieces that create fullness. When you are grateful, your mind steps out of the spiral of comparison and enters a state of balance where envy no longer controls you, fear no longer clings too tightly, and worry no longer shakes your inner world. You no longer see only what is missing but what is present. A grateful heart creates inner strength. When you have gratitude, you no longer live in a constant chase to avoid the bad and pursue the good. You stand firm between these two extremes, and you see your life more clearly. Gratitude is also a powerful medicine for the wounds you have carried. When life hurts you, you tend to withdraw, close your heart, and doubt everything. But when you can find something to be grateful for in the darkness, you are opening the door to healing. You do not deny the pain, but you acknowledge that even in that darkness there is still a small streak of light, and you choose to look at that light to keep moving. This does not make you naive, it makes you strong because you choose hope over despair. Gratitude is not avoiding the truth, it is seeing the truth from a different angle, where you no longer see yourself as a victim of life, but as someone learning to grow through challenges. When you practice gratitude, you learn to awaken the goodness that has been sleeping within you. You learn to pause in the rush of life to feel the presence of each moment. You learn to bring your mind back to your body, instead of letting it run after negative predictions. You learn to open your heart to life, and life, when seen through grateful eyes, becomes half as heavy. Gratitude also creates connection. When you are grateful for someone, you make them feel seen, valued, and acknowledged. The relationship becomes deeper, warmer, and more genuine. When you are grateful for life, you feel connected to the world, and you no longer feel alone in the busyness around you. Gratitude is the foundation of happiness because it reminds you that even if life is not perfect, there are still reasons to smile. Even if you have not achieved your goals, you still have reasons to rise again. Even if you have faced failures, you still have inner pieces that deserve appreciation. And when you allow yourself to feel these things, you are laying the first brick for your emotional maturity. Happiness does not come from what is grand, but from the ability to recognize the small things that nourish you each day. And gratitude is the shortest path to return to that peace. Human beings are not created to live in isolation, and no matter how strong you cannot deny that your happiness is directly connected to the people who exist in your life. When you look at your own journey, you will see that the brightest moments are often the moments when you were connected, when you were understood, when you were shared with, and when you were touched by someone else's kindness. Connection is not simply the feeling of having friends or family. It is the deep recognition that you do not have to face life alone. When you feel lonely, what hurts you is not the absence of others, but the empty space inside where you believe no one understands you and you must carry everything by yourself. But the truth is not like that. Your body and mind are programmed to seek connection because it gives you a sense of safety and belonging, and that feeling is the foundation of lasting happiness. When you connect with someone genuinely, the brain releases oxytocin, a chemical that makes you feel warm, trusting, and at ease. This not only creates comfort but also helps reduce stress, increase inner strength, and open your heart to life. Connection does not need to come from grand relationships. Sometimes it is just an empathetic look, a short conversation, or someone who understands you without many words. In those moments you feel seen, heard, and acknowledged. The deepest human happiness always comes from the feeling of belonging, not belonging to a place, but belonging to a person, a group, or a space where you do not have to hide who you are. When you build true connection, you are building a bridge between your heart and the world. And that bridge becomes the path that helps you walk through dark times more gently. The greatest human pain is often not loss, but feeling left behind, feeling misunderstood, or feeling that no one is close enough to reach the place where your struggles exist. But what matters most is that you must open your heart before expecting someone to walk toward you. Many people shut their heart after past wounds and convince themselves that they no longer need anyone, but that is only a way to avoid being hurt again. And when you do that, you also close the door to joys that only genuine relationships can bring. When you allow yourself to connect, you do not only receive, you also give. Kindness, a sincere compliment, a gentle hug, or the way you listen to someone all have the power to change their emotions and your own. When you give connection, you activate the parts of the brain related to happiness, meaning, and purpose. This explains why a small act like helping someone or offering encouragement can make you feel better instantly. Many people in modern society feel lonely, even with hundreds of acquaintances, because true connection does not come from quantity, but from quality. You only need one friend who truly understands, one relative who listens deeply, one person who makes you feel safe to express yourself, and that alone is enough to nourish your inner world. True connection does not require you to be perfect. It requires you to be authentic. Remember that everyone carries silent wounds, and when you allow yourself to open the door, others are allowed to do the same. Genuine connection creates a circle where both feel safe to be honest, to be vulnerable, and to no longer pretend to be strong. And that is where happiness takes root most deeply. But connection also requires you to actively build it. You cannot expect someone to understand you if you never speak. You cannot expect a relationship to deepen if you are afraid to take one step toward them. A simple message, a word of appreciation, a short meeting, or just a moment where you offer someone your full presence can create great change. You do not need many people, you need the right people. And to attract the right people, you must begin by becoming the most authentic version of yourself. Connection is also where you learn the lesson of healthy boundaries. You cannot have a happy relationship if you constantly allow others to cross your values. When you set boundaries, you teach others how to respect you, and you also show respect for yourself. A lasting relationship is not built on endurance, but on the balance between giving and receiving, between understanding and respecting each other. When you build healthy connections, you carry with you a network of emotional support that helps you stand firm in your hardest moments. Happiness is not a single goal, it is something nurtured in an environment of connection, love, and the presence of kind people. You are not an island. Life becomes lighter, deeper, and more beautiful when you step into connection with sincerity and allow others to see the real you. And it is within those relationships that you find a vital part of happiness that nothing else can replace. People often believe that motivation comes from grand moments, but the truth is that your strongest inner power does not lie in dramatic events. It lies in the small victories you usually overlook. When you look back at your life journey, you will realize that the most important steps forward were not the moments when you achieved something great, but the days when you kept going, even when everything seemed to be against you. It is the moments when you complete a small task, when no one sees, when no one praises, and when no one pushes you that form the true foundation of strength. A person's power does not come from what they do when they are inspired, but from what they do when inspiration is gone. Each time you complete even a small task, you are sending a signal to the brain that you are capable of moving forward, and the brain responds by releasing dopamine, a chemical that creates satisfaction and motivates you to keep going. When you repeat this every day, you are building a positive reward system that makes motivation something naturally cultivated rather than forced. Small victories are like silent bricks forming the foundation of a solid structure, and the beautiful thing is anyone can create them. One morning when you wake up on time, even though your mind wants to delay, that is a victory. When you complete a task you once feared facing, that is a victory. When you resist a bad habit even for one day, that is a victory. When you choose to exercise for a few minutes instead of neglecting your body, that is a victory. And each of these small victories, when repeated, builds a chain of progress that stops you from seeing yourself as weak. You begin to see yourself as the kind of person who stands up, who acts, who keeps promises, and that is the foundation of confidence. Many people lose trust in themselves not because they fail in big ways, but because they overlook their small wins and forget that they are still progressing. They diminish their own value because they believe their actions are not big enough, not impressive enough, not important enough. But life is not built by giant leaps, it is built by countless small steps taken consistently over time. You do not need to do everything perfectly. You only need to move forward a little each day, and accumulation will create transformation. A crucial part of the art of small victories is the ability to recognize them. When you do not acknowledge your effort, you make your brain believe you are not changing, even though you are growing little by little. If you want strong motivation, you must become someone who sees the good you are doing. Look at your day, and you will notice you have won more times than you think. You chose not to respond negatively. That is an emotional victory. You chose to stay focused instead of letting your mind drift. That is a victory of the mind. You chose to speak kindly even while tired. That is a victory of kindness. You chose to begin even when uncertain. That is a victory of courage. And when you learn to see these things, you will cultivate a stable inner world, a resilient will, and a confidence no one can take from you. Small victories are also where you learn to overcome procrastination. What makes you give up is not that the task is too hard, but that the mind always tries to delay everything by convincing you that you are not ready. But when you complete even a small action, you are breaking the cycle of procrastination and teaching your mind that you can start first and improve later. And the important thing is that this beginning triggers a sequence of actions, creating a flow of progress. Procrastination dissolves when you begin with one small step. Remember, the brain loves the feeling of completion no matter how small. When you give it this feeling, often it will seek the next task to repeat that feeling. And that is how highly disciplined people maintain success. They do not wait for inspiration, they create inspiration through movement. A small victory each day is also how you prevent yourself from falling into helplessness. When life becomes difficult, you may not be able to fix everything at once, but you can do one small thing to prove that you still have control. A hurting person can still get out of bed, and that is a victory. A disappointed person can still complete a simple task, and that is a victory. Someone who has stumbled can still pause and reset their mindset, and that is a victory. These moments remind you that no matter what life throws at you, you still have the ability to act, and the ability to act is the real evidence of inner strength. Let me tell you this, when you begin to see life through the lens of small victories, you will realize that happiness is not something created when you achieve something big, but something nurtured daily through small yet right choices. Success is not a single moment, it is a chain of persistent steps. And when you understand this, you will no longer judge yourself by what you have not done, but by how you keep moving forward, even slowly, but without stopping. Each day you give yourself a reason to be proud. You are creating the strongest version of yourself. And it is these small victories that will become the anchor for the rest of your life. Your body and your mind are not two separate entities. They are two streams of energy constantly moving around each other and influencing each other every moment. And when you understand this connection, you will realize that many worries, fatigue, and anxiety do not come from a mental problem, but from a body that has not been cared for properly for far too long. The body stores every emotion, every wound, and every pressure you have ever experienced. And if you do not release them through movement, your mind becomes a place filled with heavy thoughts. People often try to heal the mind through thinking, but the mind cannot heal when the body is still stuck in a state of tension. When you move, you are not only moving your body, you are reopening pathways in the brain that allow energy to flow. A gentle step, a deep breath, a soft movement is enough to awaken the nervous system and bring you back to the stability your mind has forgotten. I want you to imagine this, that every time you walk, even for just a few minutes, your body begins creating positive signals sent to the brain, telling it that you are safe and capable of overcoming whatever lies ahead. And when the brain receives these signals, it immediately reduces stress, lowers anxiety, and helps you return to balance. Peace is not an abstract concept. It is a biological response, and you can activate it through movement. When you keep your body still for too long, energy becomes trapped in the muscles, making you feel heavy, restless, and unable to concentrate. But just a few minutes of stretching, a few steps, or a few deep breaths are enough to unlock that state. Many studies have shown that even gentle daily movement can reduce anxiety, increase optimism, and awaken your ability to focus. When the body is freed, the mind finally has space to breathe. And that is when mindfulness can step in. Mindfulness is not sitting still like a statue or trying to erase thoughts from your mind. Mindfulness is the moment you realize you are alive. It is the moment you feel the breath going in and out without judgment. It is the moment you know what you are thinking, what you are feeling, and you do not try to run away from it. People suffer not because emotions appear, but because they let emotions sweep them away without knowing how to stop and observe. When you practice mindfulness, you are teaching your mind to step out of chaos and into clarity. You no longer react impulsively. You no longer let the mind pull you into negative scenarios. You simply stand there watching emotions rise and fade like waves. And in that moment, you take back control. The combination of movement and mindfulness is the most powerful path to building lasting happiness. When you move your body, you release stored energy. When you practice mindfulness, you release stored emotions. When the body is light, the mind becomes clear. And when the mind is clear, you can face life with calm instead of reaction. Imagine a day when you feel overwhelmed, everything piles up and you want to give up. But instead of sitting there trying to think your way out, you step outside, walk for a few minutes, breathe deeply to slow your thoughts, then place your hand on your chest to feel your heartbeat. In that moment, you are not trying to solve your whole life. You are simply bringing yourself back to the present. And clarity appears naturally. When the mind is no longer suffocated, this is not theory, this is how the brain works. When you immerse yourself in the present through movement and breath, you leave the zone of anxiety and enter the zone of logic. The mind is sharpest when the body is connected, and the body is strongest when the mind is not being dragged into the past or pushed into the future. Many people do not understand why they always feel tired despite sleeping enough and eating enough, but they forget that the body needs movement for energy to circulate. When you keep the body still for too long, you block the flow of emotions. Every feeling of helplessness, stagnation, and heaviness comes from stuck energy. A light exercise can reopen the sense of aliveness you have lost. Mindfulness works the same way. You do not need to meditate for hours. You just need 5 minutes to observe your breath, 5 minutes to bring your mind back to awareness. This awareness is the key to inner freedom because you cannot change what you do not recognize. Mindfulness teaches you that emotions are only guests who come and go, while you are the owner of your inner home. The combination of movement and mindfulness creates a nurturing cycle. When the body awakens, the mind brightens. When the mind brightens, you feel motivated to care for your body. And this cycle, when repeated daily, helps you step out of chaos and into a grounded life. You do not need to change your entire life in a single day. You only need to slow down, breathe deeply to see where you are and where you want to go. When you understand the connection between body and mind, you will know that happiness is not something distant. Happiness begins with a body that is gently moving and a mind that is fully present in this very moment. Adversity is not an enemy that destroys you. It is a mirror reflecting the inner strength you never knew you had. And when you change the way you look at the things that once frightened you, you will discover that life is not against you. It is simply guiding you along the exact path you need to become who you are meant to be. Humans instinctively react to difficulty with fear and defensiveness, and in those moments, you easily believe everything is falling apart. But the truth is that it is not adversity that hurts you. It is the meaning you attach to it. When something does not go as planned, your brain immediately creates a story that you failed, that you are inadequate, that everything is always against you. But that is only the mind's way of protecting itself by preparing for the worst. When you realize you are not a victim of circumstances, but the person interpreting them, you reclaim your power. An event may bring pain, but how you see that event determines whether it breaks you or makes you stronger. If you See a failure as proof that you are not good enough, you will quit. But if you see failure as data that teaches you how to move forward, you will become someone entirely different. Every adversity carries a silent question, whether you will let it break you or help you grow. When you change the question, you change the story. People suffer most when they believe their struggles have no meaning. But when you find meaning in what is happening, your strength rises, and pain stops being a burden and becomes the raw material that builds a more resilient version of you. Life does not send adversity to punish you, but to remind you of the potential within you that has not yet awakened. The moments you think you cannot survive are often the exact moments you are pushed to the edge, so you can see your true strength. And what is incredible is that when you get through them, you are no longer the person you used to be. You become stronger, brighter, and deeper with yourself. When you change your perspective, you also change how you walk through challenges. Instead of asking why this is happening, you can ask what this is trying to teach me. Instead of asking why life is unfair, you can ask, how can I keep moving? Instead of focusing on what was lost, you can choose to see the new possibilities opening up. And when you ask the right questions, your mind will find the right answers. Adversity is where the brain is forced to expand. When everything is comfortable, you have no reason to change. But when difficulty arrives, you cannot continue living the old way. You must think differently, act differently, and become different. This is the restructuring process that adversity creates. If you look at it with anger, you miss the gift it carries. But if you look at it with maturity, you will see that every challenge contains a lesson that strengthens you. People often think they grow through peaceful times, but peace only creates stability, not breakthroughs. The most important growth always comes from chaos. When everything around you collapses, you must find a new place to stand. When old beliefs stop working, you must build a new system. When you lose something, you are forced to rediscover what you once neglected. And from these very moments, the seed of transformation is planted within you. When you change your perspective, you no longer see adversity as a pit, but as a door. This door opens for you to reflect on yourself, to uncover truths you once avoided, and to be reborn in a better direction. Every pain you have ever faced carries a message. Sometimes it is telling you to let go of something no longer aligned. Sometimes it is telling you to love yourself more. Sometimes it is telling you to become stronger, so you can enter the next chapter. When you understand the message, you no longer fear adversity, you begin to see it as a natural part of your journey. You will realize that the strongest people are not the ones who never hurt, but the ones who know how to turn pain into power. They do not ask why this happened to me, they ask, how will I move forward? And when you see life this way, you will always find a path out of any challenge. The most important thing is to believe that life does not happen to you, life happens for you. It does not knock you down, it wakes you up. It does not weaken you, it shows you who you are. It does not close doors, it opens new ones. And when you walk through adversity with this perspective, you do more than overcome. You grow, you clarify, you strengthen, and you know that whatever comes, you have the ability to face it. Adversity does not change your essence, but it changes your perception of who you are. And when you change that perception, you change your entire life. Life purpose is not something distant or mystical. It is not hidden inside grand dreams, nor wrapped in beautiful words. Life purpose exists in the most ordinary moments of your life. You simply have not seen it with eyes calm enough. When you ask yourself what you live for, you are not searching for an absolute answer. You are searching for a direction, a deep inner feeling that your life has meaning and value. Purpose is not something you wait to appear. It is something you create each day through the choices you make, through what you prioritize, and through the person you strive to become. People often feel lost, not because they lack purpose, but because they have never paused long enough to listen to what truly matters to them. When you live by others' expectations, when you chase societal standards, when you try to become a version that pleases everyone, you lose your inner voice. And a life without an inner voice will always feel empty, no matter how full it looks on the outside. Life purpose is when you wake up knowing there is something that pulls you forward, no matter how hard life becomes. It does not need to be big. You do not have to change the world. You only need to live in a way that makes you feel you are moving in the right direction. Some find purpose in caring for family, some find it in creating value, some find it in helping others, some find it in the journey of growing themselves. You do not need to copy someone else's purpose because your life is not their life. Your purpose is formed from what makes your heart tremble, from what makes you wake up feeling the day is worth living, from what makes you keep going even when tired. And to find these things, you must be honest enough to ask the questions you once avoided. What makes you feel lighter? What makes you feel stronger? What makes you feel like yourself? What makes life feel more meaningful? These answers lead you to the purpose you have carried all along, but never named. When you live aligned with your purpose, life stops being an endless list of tasks, stops being an exhausting race. You no longer feel like you are merely existing, you feel like you are alive. And when you are alive, you are no longer easily swept away by worries or comparison. You become steadier because you know everything you do has meaning. But living with purpose does not mean focusing only on big goals. It means creating small daily steps that move you in the right direction. Purpose is not found at the destination. Purpose lies in each action that brings you closer to the version you believe you were born to become. Sometimes you will doubt. Sometimes you will be tired. Sometimes you will wonder if you are on the right path. But that does not mean you are lost. It means you are living honestly. No one knows the right path from the beginning. You must walk to discover which road is yours. Purpose is also what keeps you standing in your darkest days. When you lose direction, when you lose faith, when life turns upside down, you may want to give up everything, but if you have purpose, you never lose everything. Purpose is like a small light. Its glow may be dim, but enough to guide you through the night. You do not need to see the whole path. You only need to see the next step. When you have direction, life becomes easier to breathe, even if difficulties remain. You do not have to fight life. You only have to follow the light within you. And the beautiful thing is that your purpose is not fixed. It grows with you, it changes as you change, and it expands as you evolve. You do not need to discover your purpose once and keep it forever. You only need courage to listen to yourself each time life enters a new chapter. Purpose is not what you declare with words, it is what you prove with actions. You do not have to say what you live for, you only need to live in a way where each choice reflects it. When purpose becomes your compass, everything you do becomes consistent. When you speak a kind word, when you complete a small task, when you overcome procrastination, when you choose what is right instead of what is easy, you are living your purpose. Many people think purpose is only for exceptional individuals. But the truth is, anyone can have purpose, because purpose is not measured by achievement, but by honesty with yourself. A mother raising her child with sincere love lives more purposefully than someone chasing fame while losing themselves. An ordinary person doing ordinary work but living with kindness lives more purposefully than many who succeed but stay disconnected from who they are. The value of life is not measured by how much you achieve, but by who you become along the way. And when you know your purpose, you stop chasing others' approval. You become your own guide. You know who you are, know what you want, and know why you continue. When you live with purpose, you no longer need life to be easy to feel happy. Happiness comes from knowing you are living true to your essence. And when you walk this path, you will realize that nothing is more powerful than a person who knows exactly why they exist. No one can go far if their heart is constantly bound by self-blame and wounds that have never been touched. Self-compassion is not weakness or self-indulgence, as many people misunderstand it, is the foundational step in building a stable inner world. When you do not know how to love yourself, every attempt at growth becomes fragile because you are trying to build a house on cracked ground. But when you learn to treat yourself with kindness, you begin building the foundation for emotional stability that no adversity can break. Humans are often harsher with themselves than with anyone else. You can forgive others but refuse to forgive yourself. You can encourage others but speak harshly to yourself. You can give others another chance but condemn yourself for a small mistake. And it is this harshness that exhausts you. You are not tired because of life. you are tired because of the way you treat yourself. When you live in a state of prolonged self-criticism, your mind becomes a battlefield where every thought carries judgment, and no one can be happy in a battlefield like that. Self-compassion is not avoiding responsibility, it is seeing mistakes through the lens of understanding. You do not say, "I am terrible," you say, "I am learning." You do not say, "I failed," you say, "I am growing." You do not say, "I am unworthy," you say, "I am becoming better." This small shift in how you speak to yourself can change the entire emotional tone of your day. One of the deepest expressions of self-compassion is knowing how to listen to your body and mind when they are exhausted. People try so hard to appear strong that they forget the body is not a machine. When you force yourself to keep running without allowing rest, you ignore the cries for help your body is sending. When you dismiss negative emotions, you do not make them disappear, you push them deeper into your body where they become stored tension. Self-compassion is when you pause and ask yourself, "What do I need?" Sometimes you need rest. Sometimes you need to cry. Sometimes you need to talk to someone. Sometimes you simply need a few quiet minutes to hear your own breath. These things do not make you weaker, they make you stronger, because the truth is no one can stay stable if they neglect the basic needs within themselves. Healing begins with honesty with yourself. Not honesty with the world, but honesty with the emotions you once buried. You may be good at hiding your pain from others, but you cannot hide it from your soul. Every emotion you refuse to face will return in stronger forms. That is why healing begins with allowing yourself to feel what you have suppressed. When you hurt, acknowledge the hurt. When you are angry, acknowledge the anger. When you are sad, acknowledge the sadness. Only when you dare to look at them will they leave you. When emotions are not seen, they try to control your actions. But when you look directly at them, you take back control. Healing is not about forgetting the past. It is about changing the way the past affects you. What happened cannot be changed, but you can change the meaning you give it. You can say, "I was hurt," or you can say, "I learned something from that hurt." You can say, "I lost too much," or you can say, "I found myself in the process of overcoming." Healing does not make you who you were before, it makes you a stronger version of who you can be. Self-compassion is also knowing how to set boundaries. When you allow others to cross your limits, you are betraying yourself. When you endure things that harm you out of fear of upsetting others, you are wounding yourself more deeply. Self-compassion is daring to say no to what harms you, even if it means being alone temporarily. Boundaries are not walls, they are reminders that you know your worth, and you do not allow anyone to treat you as less than you deserve. And when you live with healthy boundaries, you not only protect your soul, you attract people who truly respect you. One of the most powerful expressions of self-compassion is learning to forgive yourself. People carry old mistakes like a heavy stone on their back, and they believe self-punishment will make them better. But the truth is, you cannot move forward if you keep looking back. Forgiving yourself is not denying responsibility. It is acknowledging that you did the best you could with the awareness you had at that time. When you know better, you do better. And what you need is not punishment, but freedom to move on. Self-compassion is the foundation of happiness, because you cannot love life when you hate yourself. You cannot feel peace when your heart is full of self-criticism. You cannot build a future while destroying your own self-trust. When you treat yourself gently, you teach your mind to seek peace instead of tension. You teach your heart to seek healing instead of self-destruction. And you teach yourself how to stand by your own side in every situation. No one will walk with you for your entire life except you. And when you learn to become your own best friend, you will realize that happiness is not distant. It is a state you create each day through kindness, understanding, and the courage to keep moving no matter how many times you have fallen. Letting go is not the act of walking away from something you once cherished. It is the journey of freeing your heart from what no longer nourishes you. People often hold tightly to things that hurt them because they believe that releasing them means losing a part of themselves. But the truth is, you only lose what was never truly yours, while your real essence never leaves you. When you carry old memories, faded relationships, mistakes replayed in your mind, or expectations that exhaust you, you are allowing the past to pull down the energy of your present and prevent you from seeing the new possibilities opening in front of you. Letting go is not forgetting, it is accepting that those things have completed their role in your life. Some people enter your life to teach you love, some to teach you strength, some to teach you release, and when their time is over, you must be brave enough to move on. Holding tightly to something that no longer fits only keeps you stuck in an old chapter while life is calling you to step into the next one. Letting go does not make you weaker, it makes you wiser. Because the real difficulty is not that you cannot leave, but that you have grown used to the pain, used to the acceptance, used to putting others above yourself, used to the stories you tell yourself that everything will change even when you clearly see it no longer belongs. And when you live inside that familiarity, you slow down your own growth. Letting go is stepping out of your comfort zone and walking into the unknown, where you may lose something old, but can also find something more aligned. Sometimes you must let go of a relationship, sometimes an expectation, sometimes an old version of yourself. Each time you release, you create space, and that space is where life places something new. But what matters most is that you believe you deserve the new. Many people cannot let go because they believe what they have is the best they will ever get, and they fear they will find nothing better. They hold on to familiarity even when it hurts because they fear uncertainty. But the truth is, you cannot receive the new while still clinging to the old. Growth begins when you dare to ask whether you are holding on out of fear of losing or because it is truly good for you. When you look at life with that question, you will feel clearly what needs to stay and what needs to leave. Letting go is also an act of inner freedom. You cannot move forward if a part of your past keeps holding you back. Look at the mistakes you once made. You can see them as evidence of failure, or you can see them as chapters that are already complete. When you let go of the belief that you are to blame, you finally enter the process of growth. A mistake cannot define you unless you allow it to. Letting go is when you look at yourself and say, I have learned enough and I will move on. Sometimes you must release things that once made you happy because they no longer bring value to your present. That does not mean you do not appreciate your past. It means you know that not everything beautiful is meant to stay forever. A flower blooms most beautifully in its season, and when its season passes, you must let it go so the next season can come. Letting go is the art of trust. Trust that you will be okay, even when the old thing leaves. Trust that you will find something better. Trust that life does not take anything away without giving something else in return. Trust that when you become lighter, you will rise higher. Letting go does not happen in a single moment. It is a process repeated each day, every time your heart feels heavy, every time old memories rise, every time you want to grab onto what once felt familiar, you choose to release a little more. And one day you realize that what once hurt you no longer has power over your life. When you let go, you do not lose, you are freed. You reclaim the energy you once gave away. You reclaim the self-respect you lost. You reclaim the peace you sacrificed while holding on to what was never meant to stay. And when you become lighter, you have space to rebuild what is right for you. You can rediscover the version of yourself you once abandoned. You can walk toward what truly aligns with you. You can smile knowing you are no longer tied to old pain. Letting go is the condition for new happiness to form. The past is not an enemy, but it cannot be the place you live forever. You cannot enter a new chapter if you keep rereading the old one. When you let go, you do not just close a door, you open an entire sky. And when you see that sky, you will understand that life is always bigger than the pain you once held. You only need enough courage to open your hands. Happiness is not a moment that flashes and disappears. It is a state built from small habits repeated each day until they become the solid foundation of your life. People often overestimate big changes and underestimate the power of small actions. But it is the small things done daily that create the most noticeable difference. A right habit is a piece that helps you maintain inner stability and nourish positive emotions, no matter how turbulent life becomes. When you form a habit, you are reprogramming your brain in a way that makes happiness a natural response instead of a forced effort. What matters is not doing something big, but doing the right thing long enough for it to reshape who you are. A healthy body does not come from one intense workout, but from moving every day. A peaceful mind does not come from one long meditation, but from the moments you return to your breath throughout the day. A life going in the right direction does not come from one big decision, but from countless small decisions made with awareness. Lasting happiness is always linked to the system of habits you maintain. When you lack habits, you are pulled by emotions. When you have habits, you lead your emotions. And the beautiful thing is, anyone can build this system. When you begin with one small habit, you send a signal to your brain that you are in control of your life. Each repeated action strengthens the belief that you are capable of growing. And over time, those small signals create a stronger version of you. One of the most important habits is starting your day with intention. When you open your eyes and immediately dive into the chaos of social media or worries, you lose the ability to lead your day in its first minute. But when you spend a few minutes on something that grounds your mind, like deep breathing, writing down something you are grateful for, or simply sitting still to feel your presence, you set a positive tone for the entire day. A small morning habit can change how you react to everything for hours afterward. Habits are also how you build consistency. No one can be strong every day, but habits help you move forward even when you are tired. When you repeat an action, even imperfectly, you strengthen your willpower. A person with habits does not rely on motivation because they have built a structure that resists procrastination. They are not someone who always wants to work, but someone who knows how to work even when they do not want to. This creates a deep form of confidence because they know they can rely on themselves. Another important habit is making space for yourself. People burn out not because they do too much, but because they do not know when to stop. You need pauses for your body, to rest for your mind, to refresh, and for your emotions to reorganize. Many think rest is a luxury, but the truth is rest is a requirement for effective work and peaceful living. An overloaded mind cannot be clear, and an exhausted body cannot bring joy. Happiness comes from balance, and the habit of resting is the key to that balance. You also need habits that nourish your mind, such as reading, learning something new, or listening to stories that make you wiser. When you nourish your mind, you expand your perspective and increase your ability to understand yourself. A nourished mind is a mind that knows how to see life with openness instead of fear. The next important habit is the habit of connection. When you spend time with people who make you feel peaceful, you are adding positive energy to your inner world. Honest conversations, moments of presence with loved ones, or simply listening to someone can increase your sense of life satisfaction. Connection is not a luxury, it is a need of the soul. A habit system also requires the habit of protecting your energy. When you clearly know what drains you and what brightens you, you will know how to choose what is right for yourself. Sometimes the right choice is saying no. Sometimes the right choice is walking away. Sometimes the right choice is keeping your own space. A person who protects their energy is someone who remains steady in any circumstance. And finally, one of the most important habits of all is the habit of self-reflection. When you know how to look back at your day to see what you did well, what needs improvement, and what you are grateful for, you build the ability to recognize yourself. People with this ability are not easily swept away by worry because they know what is happening inside them. Self-reflection helps you adjust habits and stay on your right path. Lasting happiness is the result of right and consistent habits. When you understand this, you stop waiting for big events to change your life. You know that as long as you choose one small right action and repeat it daily, you are building a foundation that no challenge can break. A habit system not only makes you stronger, but also makes you someone you can trust. And when you can trust yourself, nothing in this life can shake you. No one is born resilient, but everyone has the ability to become resilient. Resilience is not that you never fall, it is how you rise after each fall. And the truth is, life operates in a very fair way. It will challenge you enough for you to grow, but never so much that you cannot endure. What exhausts you is not hardship, but the doubt that you are not strong enough to overcome it. And when you understand that resilience is not an inborn trait but a skill shaped over time, you will look back at everything you have survived and realize you are far stronger than you ever thought. Resilience does not come from rigidity, it comes from flexibility. A tree that is too stiff breaks easily, while a tree that bends with the wind survives the storm. Humans are the same. When you insist on forcing everything to go your way, you suffer more. But when you know how to accept reality, adjust your steps, and shift your perspective, you become steadier through any upheaval. Resilience begins with the ability to face the truth, even when the truth hurts. You cannot heal what you refuse to confront. You cannot move forward while denying what is happening. When you dare to look at your pain, your mistakes, your failures with a spirit of learning, you open the first door of resilience. Resilience also comes from knowing what you have survived. Every experience that once made you feel you could not go on is proof that you are still here. You are still breathing, still standing, still continuing. That means you have overcome every worst thing you once feared. When you look back, you will see that many of the chapters that hurt you the most are the very chapters that built your greatest strength. Tears do not make you weaker, they make you real. Failures do not make you worse, they make you sharper. And when you understand this, you no longer look at hardship with resentment, but with maturity. Resilience is also the ability to adjust yourself when things do not go your way. You cannot control life, but you can always control how you respond. A resilient person is not someone who is calm all the time, but someone who returns to calm faster. Not someone who has never feared, but someone who keeps going even while afraid. Not someone who is always strong, but someone who knows how to seek help when needed. Resilience is not pretending you are fine. It is admitting you are hurt, yet still choosing to move forward. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you allow yourself to heal. And when you heal, you grow stronger. A crucial part of resilience is the ability to find meaning in adversity. When you believe what you are going through is not meaningless, you have a reason to stand up and continue. It is the belief that everything carries a message that prevents you from collapsing completely. When you find meaning in suffering, pain stops being a fire that burns you and becomes a fire that forges you. Resilience also comes from asking the right questions. Many people ask why this is happening and become stuck in resentment. But a resilient person asks, what can I do next? And that question opens a path. The question determines your destiny. The right question pulls you out of stuckness. The wrong question drags you deeper. When you learn to ask the right questions, you teach your mind to seek solutions instead of sinking into fear. Resilience is also an act of persistence. It is not about how fast you go, but whether you stop. One small step a day still takes you to your destination. You do not need to run. You only need to not stop. Persistence is not glamorous, but it is the factor that separates who you are today from who you will become. Someone who takes small, steady steps will always go farther than someone who sprints one day and quits the next. Resilience is not speed, it is direction. Another part of resilience lies in your ability to rely on your support system. You are not an island, and you were not designed to battle alone. When you reach out to people you trust, when you share, when you receive help, you do not become weaker, you become stronger. Resilience is the ability to step back, so you can be lifted up, not the attempt to stand alone in the storm. And you must remember that no chaos lasts forever. Every storm ends. Every pain softens. Every turmoil has a point of completion. What defines you is not the storm, but how you walk out of it. When you understand that your emotions are merely waves, you know they will come and then go. And you do not fear waves when you know how to swim. Life will continue to throw challenges at you, but you will no longer be lost as before because you have built inner strength. You have learned how to rise. You have learned how to remain calm. You have learned that storms are simply part of the journey. Resilience does not make life easier, but it makes you stronger. And when you become stronger, you see life differently. You no longer ask why, but ask what is next. You no longer fear change, but face it. You no longer try to run away, but learn to walk through. And when you can do that, you become a version that nothing can defeat. Resilience is the essence of a soul that has risen more times than it has fallen. And when you realize you have survived everything that once tried to break you, you will know you can overcome anything that comes next. You are the living proof of the power of resilience. Modern life makes people believe that happiness must come from abundance, from big things, from achievements they have chased for a long time. But the truth is, lasting happiness is born in the simplest things, the small things. People have become so familiar with that, they no longer see them. When you move too quickly through your days, when your mind is buried in noise and constantly pulled toward big demands, you lose the ability to feel the beauty happening right within reach. You are not tired because you lack something grand. You are tired because you have ignored the small things that were created to help your soul breathe. Simplicity is not poverty. Simplicity is the art of shrinking what is unnecessary, so you have space to see what truly matters. And when you live simply, you begin to feel life on a deeper, softer, more genuine level. People do not lose happiness because of what they do not have, but because of the complexity they add to their own lives. Many people feel life is heavy, not because they carry too little, but because they carry too much. They carry worries that do not belong to them, the expectations of family, the standards of society, the endless comparisons with others. They become runners in a race with no finish line, trying to meet things they are not even sure they really want. And in that stream, they slowly forget the simplest truth that they only need to live their own life. Simplicity begins when you dare to ask whether this is truly necessary for me, or just something I think I must do. When you ask this question with honesty, you will clearly see what is draining your energy. There are relationships that have expired but you still hold on to. There are responsibilities you accept just to please others. There are material pursuits you chase only to prove something. There are promises you reluctantly make because you are afraid to say no. When you remove these things, you lose nothing. You only return to yourself the freedom you unintentionally gave away. Simplicity is also how you relearn the art of presence. When you are not distracted by countless meaningless worries, you finally see the beauty of the present. A fresh morning, a gentle breeze, a laugh coming from the corner of a room, sunlight touching the table, a cool glass of water, a moment when you sit still and feel that you are breathing. These things are not small, they only seem small to a mind moving too fast to notice. But when you slow down, you will see they are the bright points that nourish your emotions. You will see life is kinder than you thought. Simplicity also helps you rediscover yourself. When you remove the noise, you hear your inner voice again. When you put down the roles that are not yours, you see who you are becoming. When you stop chasing perfection, you begin to live authentically. And when you live authentically, happiness becomes natural. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. You only need to live a life that makes your heart feel light. Simplicity is the foundation of clarity. A complicated mind cannot see direction, but a simple mind knows what it needs and what it does not. When you live simply, you choose what is right instead of what is loud. You choose genuine connections instead of surface relationships. You choose peace instead of competition. You choose depth instead of width. And these choices slowly form a stronger inner world. Simplicity is also how you reduce pressure on yourself. When you release unnecessary standards, you no longer feel constantly inadequate. When you understand the value of the small, you are no longer obsessed with the big. When you accept that life does not need to be perfect to be meaningful, you stop judging yourself so harshly. The happiest people are not those who have the most, but those who appreciate the most. And appreciation always begins with simple things. A warm meal, a deep sleep, an honest conversation, a light rain, an instant when you smile to yourself. Simple, yet fulfilling. Simplicity also helps you connect better with others. When you are not controlled by complexity, you listen more deeply, empathize more, and love more genuinely. You see people through the eyes of simplicity instead of judgment. You see them as souls trying to live rightly just like you. and this simplicity makes you the kind of person who easily touches the hearts of others. Ultimately, living simply is an act of freedom. You are not pulled back by the past, not pushed into the future, not trapped by unreasonable demands. You just live fully with what is in front of you. And when you live fully, you see life as peaceful, real, and deeply lovable. Happiness does not hide in distant things. It is right in this moment when you choose to simplify your life and let the simplest things walk into your heart. Presence is not an advanced skill reserved for the enlightened, but a natural ability you once had as a child. Only that as you grew up, life made you forget how to truly live each moment. When you were young, a drop of water, a leaf, a soft breeze was enough to make you stop, look closely, and feel deeply. But as you grew older, your mind became crowded with worries, plans, expectations, comparisons, and responsibilities, to the point where you no longer had space to feel what was happening right in front of you. You live in the past or in the future so much that the present becomes something you rush through instead of something you live fully. And this is what makes life lose its depth. When you are not present, you do not see clearly where you are, you do not hear your inner voice, you do not feel the beauty unfolding, and you are not truly living. Many people believe they are living, but in reality they are only running after the pace of life, being dragged by momentum, not once stopping to ask themselves if they are truly here in this moment. Living with presence is not meditating all day. It is the ability to bring your mind back to what is happening. It is when you drink a glass of water and feel the coolness down your throat instead of letting your mind run to the things that worry you. It is when you talk to someone and listen fully instead of replying out of habit. It is when you watch a sunset and allow yourself to truly see it instead of taking a quick photo and walking away. Presence is when your mind does not run ahead of your body and your body is not left behind. When you live with presence, the things you once thought were ordinary suddenly become meaningful. A hug, a deep breath, a gentle step, a minute, leaning back in your chair, letting your mind settle, these become nourishing moments that bring you back to the peace you have always looked for without realizing it was right here. Worry appears when the mind lives in the future. Sadness appears when the mind lives in the past. But peace appears only when the mind lives in the present. When you learn presence, you break the emotional spiral that pulls you away. You are not bound by the past, not frightened by the future. You stand fully in this moment and tell yourself, I am here, I am safe, and I am alive. Presence is also the ability to observe emotions instead of being controlled by them. When you are angry, you know you are angry. When you are afraid, you know you are afraid. When you are sad, you know you are sad. This awareness creates a distance between you and your emotions, helping you avoid being swept into the storm of the mind. You are not your emotions, you are simply experiencing them. And when you understand this, you can return to balance more easily. Presence is also a gift you give to others. When you listen to someone with your full presence, they feel safe. When you truly see them, they feel valued. When you put your phone down and give your time to your loved ones, they feel loved. Your presence is more powerful than you think because it shapes the quality of every relationship. No one needs you to be perfect, they just need you to be truly there. One of the biggest obstacles preventing you from living with presence is the speed of life. You think you must do more, achieve more, run faster. But it is that very speed that makes you miss your own life. You do not need life to slow down to be present. You need yourself to pause for a moment to see. 1 minute relaxing your shoulders. 1 minute closing your eyes and feeling your breath. 1 minute looking out the window and sensing the sky. These small moments can change an entire day. When you live with presence, you learn to feel instead of analyze, to observe instead of judge, to let go instead of control. And it is in that letting go that you find true freedom. Presence teaches you that life is not measured by the number of moments, but by the quality of each one. 1 minute of true presence is worth more than a day lived unconsciously. 1 second of feeling your heart is stronger than hours spent chasing things that exhaust you. And when you realize this, you begin to slow down, to live deeper, and to live more authentically. When you are present, you realize you do not need many things to be happy. You only need to open your heart to what is happening. One breath can bring peace. One smile can soften the heart. One ray of sunlight can make you grateful. One moment of silence can brighten your mind. Everything is here. Happiness is not hidden, it is only missed. When you return to this moment, you return to yourself. Presence is that return. And when you return, you will see that life suddenly becomes wider, lighter, and full of colors in a way you once thought you had lost forever. Happiness is not a reward for the lucky, nor a gift that appears only when everything in your life is perfect. Happiness is the skill of someone who knows how to listen to themselves, who knows how to create peace even when life is unfinished, who knows how to stand steady in the storm without losing the light within. When you reach the end of this journey, you do not become a more perfect person, you become a more authentic one. You understand that happiness is no longer something you seek, but something you cultivate. It lives in the way you think, the way you perceive, the way you love yourself, and the way you walk each day, even as life shifts in unpredictable ways. Happiness becomes a lifelong skill when you know that every emotion is a wave and you are the ocean. You do not try to control the waves, you let them come and go while you remain yourself. When you realize this, you are no longer swept away by worries, no longer controlled by the past, no longer losing the future to fears your mind creates. You live fully in the present, and the present is where happiness is born. You also understand that happiness is inseparable from choice. Each day, you choose what to feed your mind. You choose how to respond to life. You choose what to hold on to and what to release when it no longer aligns with you. These choices shape the version of yourself you are becoming. And when you choose to live aligned with your inner values, you become free in a way nothing can confine. Happiness is also a journey back to your essence, where you do not need to pretend to be strong, do not need to hide your pain, do not need to chase validation. You only need to be yourself with the authenticity, the courage, and the peace you have built throughout the path. When you look back, you will see that every step, every fall, every rise brought you here where you understand yourself more deeply and love yourself enough to live a meaningful life. You no longer need life to be easy. You only need a heart wide enough to receive whatever comes and a mind clear enough to know you can keep moving. Happiness is not a destination, happiness is the way you walk. And when you walk with clarity, with gratitude, with simplicity, with connection, with self-compassion, with purpose, and with resilience, you step into a new timeline where you no longer chase life but live with it. Remember that happiness is always present in every breath you take. You only need to be still enough to feel it and brave enough to choose it each day. You have walked with me through a long journey, a journey that led you from the deepest foundations of happiness to the ability to create peace within your own life. You have looked back at the true nature of happiness, explored the power of awareness, awakened gratitude, learned to connect, appreciated the small victories, aligned body and mind, transformed adversity, found your purpose, healed through self-compassion, let go of the old, built the right habits, developed resilience, lived simply, and became fully present in each moment. Each part has not only been a lesson, but a step you took toward a stronger version of yourself. And if you have stayed until the end, it means your soul is ready for a new chapter. A chapter where happiness is no longer something you chase, but something you create every single day. Thank you for spending your time here until this final moment. Thank you for opening your heart and allowing me to walk with you on this journey of finding peace and meaning in life. If this content resonates with you, if it gives you a new perspective, a small awakening, or even just a little calm in a long day, leave a like so the algorithm knows this is content worth spreading. Share this video with someone you care about, because maybe just one sentence in it could help them stand back up after difficult days. And if you want to continue the journey of building inner strength, living more deeply, more powerfully, and more peacefully, subscribe to the channel so you will not miss the next chapters ahead. Thank you once again for listening. Keep the peace within you, and I will see you in the next video.